Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally Spooktacular, a podcast dedicated to the scary stories around Scotland and a scary film. No, I'm only joking. It's the Culture Swally. It's a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nikki and I'm joined, as always, by the man who once saw a couple of ghoulies through Little John's window. It's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
I'm very well. I'm just admiring your T-shirt. I don't know how you'll feel to know that my daughter has exactly the same T-shirt as that one.
Oh, does she really? Yeah. Oh, very nice. Oh, very good. I've had this for probably about 15 years, I think.
For the benefit of the listeners, Nicky's wearing a Guns N' Roses T-shirt. He's not wearing like a Forever 21 T-shirt or something like that. It's a Guns N' Roses T-shirt.
That'd be a revelation if I was wearing a Forever 21 T-shirt. Yes, it is a Guns N' Roses T-shirt. I like this T-shirt. I haven't worn it for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a classic one, though.
Yeah, it's quite faded, I think.
So it adds to the charm.
You can tell it's quite. Yeah, it does. Yeah. You can tell it's quite faded because it's quite old because it's a little bit tight around the guns, of course, obviously. Yeah. And around the stomach. So yes, how are you today, Greg? How's everything going?
Very well.
Are you all ready for Halloween coming up? I mean, this episode's going to go out in the 6th of October or something, so we're still a little bit far away from Halloween, but we like to get into the spirit early. Or the spirit, get it? Hey, oh,
we get into the spirits already. Yeah, no, we're last year on Halloween. It was on I think it was a Sunday night, which was a school. Well, it's a school night in Scotland as well. But the calendar in the Middle East last year was the first day of the week was a Sunday. It changed in Dubai, in the UAE this year to be in Monday to Sunday, like most of the rest of the world. But last year, my wife agreed that I would do a barbecue on Halloween, and the kids' friends have their friends over. They could all get dressed up and they could go trick or treating around the streets around where I live. But of course, all that happened. Well, that did happen, but all that happened was I was fucking harassed because I was. Obviously, the kids had to be on their way home by a certain time because it was a school night, so I was under pressure when I came home from work to get the food cooked and the barbecue and everything. So I did what most guys do when they're under pressure and had a few beers, and then we ended up sitting in the garden with a few of the mums and having a few drinks, which I think most of the kids didn't end up getting taken home until about 10:30. So I said I didn't want to do that again this year. I said let somebody else host, but I've been fucking browbeaten into it as usual. So there'll be no barbecue this year. Somebody will do like a pot of chili and people can just help themselves.
So what, were you just giving the kids like a can of Stella in their little lantern rather than some pick and mix?
I did completely inadvertently give a pork hot dog to a little Muslim girl, my daughter's friend.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. She was all right about it, and her mum was all right about it. And the thing was, it wasn't like entirely my fault because I asked her beforehand, do you eat pork? And I don't know if she just maybe didn't understand me because of my accent. Quite a lot of my daughter's more exotic friends' parents and their friends, they sort of smile politely when I'm talking to them, but they've got a fucking clue what I'm saying. So it's not really the girl's fault. But I said, do you guys eat pork? And she said, yeah. So I gave her a hot dog and she took a bite out of it. And then my daughter came over and said, they're pork hot dogs to her friend. And she was like, oh, I don't eat pork. So, but luckily, her mum was fine about it. She only had a little nibble. So I'm sure she's still right with Allah. It was a mistake,
Yeah, you never know. Maybe you've converted her. She's off to Spinney's eating secret pork whenever she can.
Smashing.
Once you got a taste,
smashing Pop-Tarts and bags of Haribo, like the good Haribo that they keep in the non-Muslim. In the non-Muslim part of the supermarket here because they've got like pig fat in them or something.
Oh, very good. Oh, well, I look forward to hearing tales of your Halloween from this year in a couple of episodes' time.
Yeah, I think I'll be... I'm going to just try and stay out of it this year. So I'll just leave it to my wife to organise.
Very wise.
Will you be decorating your front door in case any geysers come and give you a chat on Halloween?
No. Well, fuck.
Or will you be pretending not to be in?
Probably pretending not to be in. I mean, we live on the 7th floor of a apartment block, and I don't know if there's any kids in the building of that age, actually, and not really around about the neighbourhood. So, no. And, I mean, when I lived in Dubai, it was very much a case of there was kind of a code of, in the neighbourhood that I lived, that if you did want people to come to your door, you would decorate outside or leave your outside lights on. But no, I always just had my lights off and, not bothering with that. Can't be arsed.
Yeah. Is there a lift in your building? I think I've asked that before.
There is, yeah.
Wasn't sure, because, these old European cities, the buildings are old and stuff, and,
No, our building's relatively new,
right, okay.
I would say, yeah. We're in in the Docklands area, so it's kind of like an area that's been renovated and stuff. But no, like our previous apartment was in the city centre, and that was a very old building. But we were on the first floor. But no, there was no lift there, obviously. But no, we do have a lift, so it's all fine. Yes,
glad to hear it.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you're glad to hear it. Right then, Greg, shall we have a look at what has been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks?
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, so what have you seen in the last couple of weeks in the newspapers in Scotland that has caught your eye and you want to share with me and all of the listeners?
Well, both my stories this week, I think, are absolute bangers. So I don't know which one to do first. I think probably one is slightly better than the other one, but not by much. So I'll save the better one for the last, my last one.
Oh, okay.
So this story comes from the Daily Record on the 14th of September, so it's a week old or so. And the headline is, Scots teacher who waved fake penis at colleagues banned from classroom. This is Derek Turkington. He was found to have behaved inappropriately towards staff at Newbattle Community High School in Dalkeith between August 2017 and 2018. There's a picture of him here. He's got a touch of the old sort of 1980s children's television presenter look to him, so he does.
Is he waving the penis?
No, he's not. He looks like he's modelling ski coats, ski jackets. A teacher has been banned from the classroom for waving a fake penis at colleagues while making suggestive and provocative movements. Derek Turkington was found unfit to teach on Wednesday following the incident at Newbattle Community High School in Dalkeith in Midlothian. During this time, Mr. Turkington was found to have behaved inappropriately towards staff by putting a prosthetic penis down his trousers and then through his zip. He then made suggestive and provocative movements toward his colleagues and also placed his finger through his trousers zip while attempting to mimic male genitalia. That old classic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mr. Turkington claimed he'd been carrying a box of fake penises, as you do. Out and about with a box of fake penises. He claimed he had been carrying a box of fake penises from a sex education class and unintentionally must have held one of the mocked up members up as he waved goodbye to a colleague. I mean, I don't remember like fake cocks in sex education classes. When we got taught about sex education, the science teacher had a tank full of like big kind of grasshoppers, and we just basically had to watch grasshoppers shag for a couple of months to learn how babies were made.
Did you never have to put a condom over a banana or a cucumber?
Well, I went to my first high school was a Catholic school, so
okay, definitely not then.
By the time I got back to school in Scotland, I think just assumed that we knew how to put condoms on. I was 14 by then,
That you were already at it.
So the guidance teacher, originally from Glasgow, was described as a kind of a Benny Hill character in his regards to sexual actions or language by a former member of staff. In reference to a pupil who was in earshot, Mr. Turkington was also found to have said, they've put colleague A, so I guess they've put colleague A instead of the name of the teacher he was talking to. Can you please tell him that his dad clearly doesn't care about him and that he needs to move on and just get a grip? Your dad doesn't care about you, just get a grip and move on. Following a 4-day hearing into his conduct, the General Teaching Council for Scotland The General Teaching Council for Scotland panel decided to remove Mr. Turkington from the teaching register. Arthur Stewart, the convener of the panel, said, "Our decision as to Mr. Turkington is that he is unfit to teach, and the panel must direct that his name be removed from the teaching register." Mr. Turkington has denied the allegations that he placed one of the prosthetics down his trousers and denied that he placed a finger through his zipper to mimic male genitalia. The allegations against the Scots teacher stated, "Between in or around August 2017 and in or around May 2018, the teacher did, whilst employed as a teacher by Midlothian Council at Newbattle Community High School, and during the course of its employment, behave in an inappropriate manner toward other members of staff. In that he did, on at least one occasion, place a prosthetic penis down his trousers and through the zip and made suggestive and provocative movements towards other colleagues. He also placed his finger or fingers through the zip of his trousers in an attempt to mimic male genitalia. And also, in or around 2017, nailed a piece of wood over a door, resulting in distress to pupils present. And in light of the above, it is alleged that his fitness to teach is impaired. Mr. Turkington appeared in front of the panel to defend himself, but he didn't show up for the final decision. When he was given evidence, he said, "The demonstrators," in reference to the box of fake penises, "were used for S4 classes to show how to put on a condom. They were kept in a box." They were kept in a box which at times overflowed.
It's just overflowing with penises.
And so you would have to carry a couple while putting a folder over the top of the box. This was to cause as little attention as possible. And all I can think is that one of my colleagues was on the phone and I was waving to say, "Bye, I'm off to teach," and I would maybe have had the demonstrator in my hand. But that's all I can think. He added, "I agree that if that allegation was done toward a colleague, that would be far too far, and out with being the appropriate humour for the workplace. I would say that my sense of humour is friendly, outgoing. I like a laugh and a joke. I wouldn't say I was slapstick as such. A sense of humour helps in the workplace. I certainly wouldn't want to upset anyone. I would be appalled if that were to happen." The GTCS did not find enough evidence to support these claims that he screamed at a pupil. Mr. Turkington was also questioned over the allegation that he nailed a piece of wood to a door and caused distress to a pupil. He said, "I'm a techie teacher. I have the skills and the knowledge to cut a piece of wood," which I did, and then went with a battery drill and carefully screwed in screws. There were absolutely no nails involved, as that would shatter the glass. I wish that people would give time and dates so I could tell you exactly what I was doing. It was done in a very calm and very structured manner. Mr. Turkington has been prohibited from reapplying to get back on the teaching register for 2 years. So, have you ever accidentally waved goodbye to somebody with an inappropriate item in your hand?
Funnily enough, no, I can't say I have. I can just envisage this, though. I have this gentleman as a kind of Colin Hunt from the Fast Show character in my head. Just that annoying prick that everyone hates and tries to avoid when he comes in. And a wonderful description, though, of his overflowing box of fake penises. And it's a wonderful excuse that I must have had one in my hand. It's an absolutely brilliant line when he says, "Bye, I'm off to teach." And what? If I was the judge, I'd have seen through that straight away. It's like, I think you're making that up, aren't you, mate? Who says that? Bye, I'm off to teach. Oh no, I appear to be waving a double-ended black mamba in front of you. It's like, what?
How did that get there?
Oh, it's fallen out of my overflowing box of fake penises.
Overflowing box of double-ended
I'm
black
amazed
mambas.
that this is what they're doing now in schools. I mean, like I say, obviously you didn't know, but in my day it was a banana, I think, or a cucumber. Whereas now they've just got full on. I hope it's what I would say is I hope that they are of adequate size as not to give the boys in the class a complex that why doesn't mine look like that? And also to give the girls any unrealistic expectations of when they're older and they come to be intimate with. In fact, I'm not going down that route of speaking about that. Yeah. So obviously that's now. I wonder if these are educational aids or if they are leftovers or
and summer's party.
well used, no longer required by some of the female teachers, or if they've purchased them for this specific reason. I have so many questions about this story.
I mean, it raises more questions than it answers, to be fair. Like, you and I have obviously been out of high school for a long, long time. You know, that's been like 26 years since I left school. And yeah, like I say, that's not how they were teaching us about sex. No overflowing boxes of penises being carried around the corridors of Meatloaf Academy in Aberdeenshire, or St Bernard's Roman Catholic School in Barrow-in-Furness, for that matter.
No.
So,
And why is a techie teacher walking about with fake penises as well?
This,
That's another thing that begs a question.
I mean, he's described as a guidance teacher. So, like, when we got taught about sex, we were taught about sex in biology, because it's science and stuff, you know. It wasn't taught as a social subject, because as far as the teachers were concerned, we weren't supposed to be fucking doing it.
I think it was my guidance teacher that taught us. Because we would have, biology, obviously that's reproduction, yes. But in terms of, our guidance teacher, we would have I think a once a week class with her. And I think it was just a general catch up of all the pupils and stuff and how things were going and discuss anything about the school. But yes, I do remember her illustrating and showing us how to put a condom. I'm sure it was a banana. Positive it was, because I keep going back to that. And I'm thinking a cucumber would have made more sense, because a banana is obviously a bit, misshapen. But then, maybe that's...
It's got that sort of rough bit at the tip as well that could make a hole in the condom. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Your guidance teacher at school, did she have a broad Aberdeenshire accent?
No, she didn't.
That's a shame.
No.
I just think there'd be something really funny about somebody with a very broad Aberdeenshire accent, like labelling all the parts of the penis and the vagina.
So what you need to do is you get a teat here and you squeeze out and you roll it over the helmet and down the shaft. And make sure it goes all the way down the shaft, right down, and make sure there's no air on the top of there, because if there's air, it might burst, and you didn't want it to burst. If it bursts, then you're fucked in more ways than one. Like that kind of thing.
Whatever you do, dinna try and haul it over the balls.
As the Reverend Westwood once said, make sure you wrap it up before you slap it up. So take that as a lesson to you. None of this unprotected sex nonsense. Make sure you got condoms.
If you're gonna gang shagging, make sure you're packing condoms. Whatever you do.
No, she had quite like a little posh Edinburgh accent, so no, it was, yeah. But she was older, so it's not like you could, go home and think about her describing these things.
Have a good hard think about her up in your bedroom.
And practice having a posh wank.
So I was telling somebody the other day, I was out for dinner last week, I can't remember how we got onto it, but I remember my mum sitting me down to talk to me about like the birds and the bees and stuff before I started high school. And she was going on about how it was important, how personal hygiene was even more important when you were going through puberty, etc., and you were growing up, and offering to show me how to clean under my foreskin. I was like,
oh wow.
Fine, I think I can probably work it out myself. Thank you, Mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this teacher has been struck off, has he? So he won't be teaching anytime soon.
He'll have to proffer his sort of not quite slapstick style of humour elsewhere for 2 years, and then see if he can get back on the teaching register.
I hope the box of fake cocks belong to the school and not him, because then they're going to have to source some more.
I can just sort of see him driving despondently away from the school the day he was suspended, with like a box in the boot with like his files and his pens and pencils and hundreds of fake cocks bashing about in the back of his Volvo estate that I assume he drives. Anyway, so that's Derek Turkington. What's your first story this week?
Well, nothing as good as that, Greg, unfortunately, but I do have a bit of a Swally trope today, which is fighting pensioners, because we do love that. So this is from Edinburgh Live this week, and the headline reads, Scottish man challenged relative to deadly graveyard duel. And I thought this was appropriate since it's our Swally Spooktacular. So, a furious Scottish man challenged a relative to a graveyard duel and told him, only one of us will make it out alive. Randolph Angus demanded family member Kenneth Clark turn up to a fight to the death after a feud escalated during a funeral. Angus, 60, told his rival to bring a weapon for an old-fashioned duel at the historic Greyfriars Cemetery in Perth. He told Mr. Clark to get tooled up for the face-off during a menacing phone call, Perth Sheriff Court was told. The record reports how Angus admitted causing fear or alarm by behaving in a threatening or abusive manner in the city on the 9th of March. His fiscal depute, Sarah Wilkinson, told the court, there has been a long-running family dispute between the accused and the complainer. On March the 8th, they attended a funeral in Perth. On this occasion, the accused did not speak to the complainer, and the complainer did not speak to the accused. The following day, at around 1:45 p.m, the complainer phoned the accused from his works van. Mr. Clark said he was calm throughout the call. He asked the accused to leave his mother alone. The accused instantly became agitated, then stated to the complainer that they should meet behind the shed at Greyfriars Cemetery and bring tools. He said, only one of us will make it out alive. Then he ended the call. His solicitor said Mr. Angus knows that it is not a very edifying spectacle to come before the court at the age of 60. His perception is that he tried to shake Mr. Clark's hand at the funeral and Mr. Clark refused. He admits that he was just annoyed and it triggered a reaction which he knows was not appropriate in any way. The sheriff deferred the sentence for 6 months to give Angus the chance to prove to the court he can stay out of trouble. He said, as Mr. Ralph has said, this was not at all an appropriate way to conduct yourself, but I understand you are remorseful. The sheriff told Angus that if he was able to maintain good behaviour, then he would be sentenced next March and it might be thrown out of court. So yeah, 60-year-old man, he's just, so there's obviously a family feud. They haven't spoken for a while. He's called him, the other guy said, leave my mum alone, and he's just overreacted and said, right, meet me at Greyfriars Graveyard tonight. Bring your tools. Only one of us going to make it out alive. He'd been
watching Highlander and having a few drinks, and he's like, "Right, fuck it. This is
Possibly.
It's the reckoning." I mean, that just sort of takes you back to school days when disputes would be like resolved or not resolved, like off school premises at like lunchtime. I mean, you always went home for your lunch, didn't you? So you were probably well away from all that kind of thing. But I remember people like arranging like the sort of kind of morning break. Or before the bell rang first thing in the morning, somebody had like a falling out or over something, and it'd be like, right, swing park at lunchtime. And so that you'd wander up to the swing park and like it would be fucking packed with kids just all excited, hoping to see a fight, and inevitably they might not fight, and if they did, it would just be shit. It'd be like two guys rolling about on the floor. And everyone's there to see blood, and it's just two guys trying to get each other on a headlock, or two girls pulling each other's hair.
Yeah, no, it always happened. And as you say, it was amazing how quickly word would just spread around the school. And obviously, if it happens in a class, then the whole class knows. And then when you're making your way to another class during like the end of a period, then word just spreads and everyone knows about this. No, we had that. It was always either 12:15, so lunchtime on the hill, because when you came out of our school, there was this little hill, or it was 3:15 on the hill. And the hill wasn't the best place to have a fight, really, because there was a lot of balance. And I remember one in particular, there was this new boy started at school. He'd come from a private school in Aberdeen, and he transferred to us just for his last 2 years. I think his parents had got divorced, and we couldn't afford to send him there anymore. And instantly, this fat lad had a problem with him because deemed him to be posho, so fight, okay, great. So they did a fight on the hill, which I say wasn't the best because the fat lad went to charge this other guy. The other guy obviously fancied himself as a bit of a Johnny Lawrence and delivered this roundhouse kick, which, to be fair, he caught the fat guy square in the face, but the momentum, the fat guy then tumbled down the hill, but the guy lost his footing and he tumbled down the hill as well. So it kind of ended in a no contest, really. But it was a great spectacle to see.
At least the fat kid got kicked in the face. So it sounds like it served him right.
It's not often you see a roundhouse kick in a school.
I think I've told you before, like my old flatmate Dale getting into a fight. They had the only fight I think he ever got into in his life, and it was at break time. And he tried to roundhouse kick a kid, and the kid just ducked. Dale's like foot went flying harmlessly over his head. But then he changed tack and just like twatted the kid right in the face and ended the fight in about 2 seconds.
You'd think these pensioners would know better. And there's a photo of Randolph Angus, and he does look like he's up for a ruck. Like he's got a how can I describe it? He's got a baker boy hat on. And, like a Peaky Blinders, and he's got his glasses. He's got what looks like a Ted Baker shirt, and then a blazer over it as well. He looks like he's looks a bit tasty. He looks like a proper he knew the craze type thing. Which is why he's telling to bring your tools, get tooled up.
Yeah, in Perth. Not exactly known for.
Yeah, in Perth.
Not exactly known for its hard men. I wouldn't have thought.
No, well. There's an opening, so he's obviously staked his claim for it. So there you go. Watch out if you're going to Perth for Mr. Randolph Angus, because he's might challenge you to a fight in a graveyard.
What would you do if you had like a kind of disagreement with somebody and he was like, right, I'll see you, I don't know, think of a venue, I'll see you in the Pataudry car park on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Would you go just to see if he turned up, or should we drive past and just see if is he there?
Well, that kind of brings attention to yourself, don't you? But you'd be sat at home wondering, like, I wonder if he's there. Yeah. I probably would go along, but from a distance, just to check if he was there. But then you don't want to get caught in case he's got, his heavies patrolling the area to see if you turn up. If he says Pataudry car park and you're up on the top of the broad hill
on the
spying
roof.
down.
Yeah, you're binoculars.
And you're like, he's there. What a prick. Oh, well. Right, I'm off home to go and watch You Wants to Be a Millionaire. And you turn round and here's 3 of his goons standing there. And you're like, oh, fuck. And then they march you to him and you've got to say you didn't bring your tools.
Yeah, I'll just nip home and get my tools. I'll be back.
I didn't think you'd be here, so I didn't take them. Sorry. I think I probably would. Why? What would you do?
Yeah, I think I would probably do the same. I would probably maybe sort of drive past, really sort of slowly in like my wife's car or something, just see if he's there.
Not drawing any attention to yourself. Driving by slowly. You're going to wear a wig as well.
Yeah, dark sunglasses and a baseball cap. Yeah, and then if he's got horners, I can always just put my foot down and power out of there.
Fair enough. Well, there you go, listeners. That's what we're going to do if anyone emails us, gets in touch. cultureswally@gmail.com if you want to challenge either of us to a fight and bring our tools. Okay, Greg, what else have you seen this week in Scotland?
Well, I too have got a Swally trope. This is from the Daily Record on the 20th of September. The headline reads, Scots mechanic exposed himself to teen girls in prank gone wrong. At tourist attraction, Callum Carlisle showed his penis. I might not get through this. Callum Carlisle showed his penis in optical illusion, making objects look larger, but was unaware that footage was being beamed to another room. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, a Scots mechanic exposed himself to a room full of teenage girls after a prank went wrong at a tourist attraction. Callum Carlisle whipped his penis out while larking around with an optical illusion device which made objects look larger. The 25-year-old was alone in a room at the Camera Obscura in Edinburgh with his girlfriend and thought no one else could see. But the image was being projected onto a screen in another room where 15-year-old girls were gathered. Police were called to the popular attraction on the Royal Mail, and shamefaced Carlisle was charged. Moments before realising that the stunt had backfired, Carlisle's girlfriend told him, I can't take you anywhere. Carlisle appeared at the City Sheriff Court on Tuesday where he admitted conducting himself in a disorderly manner by exposing his penis and committing a breach of the peace. Camera Obscura has 5 floors packed with more than 100 illusions and rooftop views of the capital. There's a picture of Callum outside court with his hands over his face, hoping that nobody recognises him, obviously not realising that he was going to be in the paper. The fiscal depute Ross Carville said the incident happened around 1:30 p.m. and Carlisle and his girlfriend were in the Ames room at the attraction. Mr. Carville said there was a device in the room that creates an optical illusion, changing the size of an object. The prosecutor said the accused unbuckled his belt, unzipped the flies on his trousers, and removed his flaccid penis from there. I mean, can I just say he got his cock out? Unremoved his flaccid penis. I mean, the fact that might be the only thing that saved him, to be honest, the fact that his penis was flaccid.
Yeah. If you had a stoner, then yeah.
He'd have been shafted. Mr. Carville said he has then held his penis in his hand and walked to the other side of the room. Thus, he appears to grow in size. He then placed his penis back in his trousers. His partner walked out of the room, and witnesses overheard her saying to him, "I can't take you anywhere." He followed her out of the room. Unfortunately, that illusion is projected onto a screen in an adjacent room where members of the public saw what the accused had been doing, including girls aged 15. The matter was accordingly reported to the police. The Crown accepted that there was no significant sexual aspect to the conduct, which took place on the 1st of August 2020, the court heard. The defence agent Nigel Bruce said his client had behaved with stupidity while having what he thought would be a great laugh with his girlfriend. Mr. Bruce said Carlisle had been shamed and embarrassed, while his partner's comment that she couldn't take him anywhere really hit the nail on the head. The solicitor said prosecutors accepted the behaviour wasn't sexual and was about men being concerned about the size of their appendage and trying to do something about it at Camera Obscura. I mean, I don't know who these men are that are going to Camera Obscura trying to make their cocks bigger, but somebody should tell them that it doesn't really make your cock bigger. And Mr. Bruce said it was a great surprise to Carlisle of Sanquhar in Dumfries and Galloway that the images are being projected in another room. There's like 3 photographs of this poor guy just like walking out of court with his hands over his head, hands over his face. His client has spent 2 years worrying about the possibility of being added to the sex offenders register. He added, he's mortified that he's here. He accepts the childishness of his behaviour. Sheriff Fiona Reith said, "This is an extremely unfortunate situation. It's clearly caused great embarrassment to you. You are not aware that the camera relayed to another room. So she has admonished him and let him go on his way without any charges. Just a telling off."
Quite right too, I think. Oh, come on. It's a bit of a joke. I mean, my main concern with this is those 15-year-old girls, because much like the first story, I hope they don't get unrealistic expectations of what
You seem
cock looks like.
You seem quite concerned about managing the expectations of teenage girls in this episode, Nicky.
That's very true. Moving on. Come on, he's just having a laugh. But yeah, obviously he doesn't know it's going to be projected in the room. Yes, is it stupid? Yes, of course it is. But I genuinely can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing in my youth had I thought
it would be a great laugh.
Yeah, come on. I'm going to think this second. Look at this. Way. Of course, if you've got some sort of camera or device that makes something look bigger, you put your hand under it or something. Whoa, that's great. Yeah. And of course, as a man, your next thought is, I wonder what my knob looks like in this. So you're going to do it, of course. Yeah. You're not going to think it's going to be screened. I hope. Unless there were signs saying this is screened in the next room, but obviously there weren't because you wouldn't do it otherwise.
I'll bet
there was no malice in it, and yeah, I'll bet there is now. You're right. And for his girlfriend to be just kind of that's ridiculous. She's obviously just been like, "Oh, I can't take you anywhere," whereas the court have kind of used that against him. You know, like she's basically like, "Can't take you fucking anywhere, you fucking nonce cunt. You're always flashing kids." Or in R.S. McCall's earlier, you had your pants down at the Sweetie Isle. Can't take you anywhere. That's what they've twisted her words to say. She's obviously just been like, "What are you like?"
Yeah.
You know? Like, I've got a bit of sympathy for him. Yeah, of course it's stupid, but come on, he was just having a laugh. We've all been there.
It's not like he got his cock out and pushed it against a restaurant window on a busy Friday night. All the diners.
Exactly.
You know what
I know, because I think that restaurant window, I've got a funny feeling the glass works the other way on that and it makes things look smaller. So he wouldn't be doing that, obviously. He wants to make things look bigger. He's just having a laugh. But yeah, as you say, I bet there's fucking signs on there now.
Yeah.
Please be careful.
Yeah, please don't unzip your trousers and take your flaccid penis out in this attraction in case there's teenage girls next door.
What was the gentleman's name?
Callum Carlisle.
Oh, if only it had been Lloyd. It would have been a great Camera Obscura pun. In terms of Lloyd, I'm ready to be cock growing or something. I don't know.
Lloyd
needs a bit of work.
I'm not ready to be put on the sex offenders register.
It would have been a travesty had he been put on the register for something like that. That's, it's a total mishap. And I bet as soon as he realised, he was mortified.
Yeah.
And then, could you imagine, though, the aftermath of that? You've done that. You're laughing. You and your girlfriend, oh, what are you like? I know. You come through the next room and here's a bunch of schoolgirls and a nun standing there. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then they're like, well, sorry, but we've just phoned the police.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, come on, get a grip. It was just a laugh. Honestly, have you phoned the police? Are you serious? So then I guess a security guard must have had to then detain him, because I would have been out there sharpish.
Yeah.
But I guess someone's had to detain him and said, sorry, you step in. And then you're going to be saying to the security guard, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Are you telling me late at night you've never done that when you're patrolling? A night watchman, you've never put your cock in there? And the guy's like, well, yeah, of course I've done it every night, but
yeah, but not when there's loads of kids in the fucking attraction.
What a shame. Oh well, at least he's got off with it, so to speak. A shame. Poor guy.
Yep. So that's Callum, shamefaced, leaving court, hoping nobody will recognise him by putting his hands over his face. What? What's your second story this week?
Okay, Greg, we've got a new drink in the market in Scotland. So, Scotland's national drink, whiskey, yeah? Mm-hmm. Scotland's second national drink, Iron Brew, yeah? Yep. What's Scotland's third national drink? Buckfast, there you go. So it is a new drinks firm hoping to rival Buckfast in parts of Scotland after launching a new fortified wine with alcohol proof of 1690. Now, it says here to rival Buckfast in parts of Scotland. I think it's going to be a very certain part of Scotland that this is going to be rivaling for. So this new drink is called King Billy, and it's thought that it's a nod to King William. Fortified wine.
It's thought that.
It's thought that. It's thought that it's a nod to King William from the Battle of the Boyne, which it's thought will appeal to loyalists throughout Scotland as its launch in Glasgow approaches. Its tagline is fortified to perfection. Right. Eyebrows were raised a couple of years ago upon the release of a King William gin, which is named in honour of William of Orange, which is a fan that apparently some Protestants and Rangers fans like. But the creators claim that it's a drink for everyone, and it's not targeted in any particular way to any particular football supporters. They said there's a large market for some areas of fortified wine, and they thought that we'd introduce ours to see if we could take a share of it, as it was requested by a lot of our existing customers. We launched King William Gin after finding out that he liberalised the manufacture of gin in the UK, there you go, with his first act of parliament in 1690. Then they go on to speak about the gin, but we don't really care about that. We're just caring about the fact there's a new bucky in town called King Billy. 2 years ago, Amazon denied claims that it stopped selling King William gin because it was causing offence in Northern Ireland. In a row, the makers allegedly posted on Facebook claiming people couldn't accept that the Dutch-born monarch officially titled King William III was a legend. Although they expected a bit of criticism for the branding, it doesn't seem to be a big concern. Spokesperson said it should reach our stockists within the next 7 to 10 days. Once our original stockists have gone through one cycle of stock, we will move on to phase 2 of the launch, which will be to include moving onto other geographical areas and even an online shop. So I'm wondering if they're just selling this kind of roundabout Govan kind of area, you know? Dutch-born Protestant leader William of Orange, blah, blah, blah. Caffeine-packed Buckfast has been heavily criticised over the decades in Scotland for its links with antisocial behaviour, but its makers claim it should be treated no differently to other brands of booze. Now, because Buckfast does have a certain reputation, you do think a bucky, and you do think it's kind of the lower class. You put it in I would say a kind of with like Thunderbird or Mad Dog.
It's associated with antisocial behaviour.
Yes, let's just be honest. Buckfast is kind of it's not even as good as like Tennant Super or Carly Super. It's Buckfast. It's probably be fair to say, it's probably the highest percentage of alcohol for the lowest monetary value, if that would make sense.
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think it's very expensive. I mean, it's got to be well over 20 years since I ever bought a bottle of it. I think when you bought a bottle once, like a small bottle, and I don't like it. I think if it's freezing cold, it's kind of it's sort of manageable, but room temp, which is the temperature it's kept in the newsagent's shelf at, it's not nice.
So you wouldn't be trying King Billy fortified wine.
No, I can imagine that it's going to be quite polarising. The launch of King Billy, and the fact that they claim to have got the alcohol ABV to like 16.9 as well.
Yeah, because Buckfast is 15%.
Right.
So yeah, to get to 1690 is quite an achievement. I wonder how they've managed that. And of course, this is going to be a rival because Buckfast is fortified by monks, isn't it? In an
Buckfast Abbey in
England.
Yeah.
So of course, this is to make sure that a certain section of Glasgow don't have to drink wine that has an abbey on the front, because I can imagine that offends some people. But now they can drink it with King Billy on the front.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy. So it's like, I wonder if they'll do like the Pepsi Challenge in Glasgow.
Yeah.
You know, the...
Yeah, in the Forge Parkhead Shopping Centre, Glasgow Fort can pitch up.
That's a great idea. The King Billy Challenge, and see if you can. It's the taste of the old generation.
Yeah.
See if anyone can notice. But funnily enough, that led to, it's another story. I'm not going to do the full story, but it led to a thought about the drinking culture in Scotland, because I think it has changed a lot over the years. And this was a story in the Scottish Sun this week about Aberdeen University Student Union, and we spent many a fun evening in the Aberdeen Uni Student Union, as it used to be. Now I think it's just a pub kind of on campus, and they're now going to stop selling alcohol because students aren't drinking. They're going to turn it into a tea room and a coffee shop and a smoothie bar because the students just aren't drinking alcohol. Now I wonder if it's just they're not drinking in that place because it's crap, or
It's just too far out
I
of
think
town.
it's a general thing. I think it is genuinely a trend now that a lot of youngsters aren't drinking alcohol like we did back in the day. They're having a healthier lifestyle, which is great news.
Yeah, I did read something about that last year, that young people they don't go to the pub as a means of socializing because of like smartphones and Zoom and everything and stuff like that, and the fact and I think just this is the thing is, like when we were I did, I'm sure you did, when we were young, sort of young teenagers, maybe before we started drinking. Certainly I knew lots of cautionary tales, and there were a lot of examples of cautionary tales, even in my own family, that would that you would, if you had the sort of maturity, I use that word very loosely, but the maturity that we have now, we've just been pissing ourselves laughing at boxes of cocks and guys getting their dicks out in Edinburgh tourist attractions. You would sort of look to these sort of these alcohol casualties and think, I maybe think twice. But it never ever occurred to me when I was a young man when I was a young teenager, that as soon as I could pass for 18, I'd be in the pub. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was just, because it just seemed like the fucking best place in the world to be. Especially when you can't get in because you're too young, and I was always quite lucky that I was always quite tall, so I was able to get in the pub from I was about 15, 16, and never ever got carded or anything like that. But it was just magical places, pubs, as far as I was concerned back then.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree. In some aspect, they kind of still are. To me, in a way, when you go back home, there's nothing like a little magical pub. Even here in Amsterdam, there's some amazing old pubs you go in, and it unlocks a lot of quaint things. I remember there was a pub on my old road. I'd only been in it like twice, and they had like this jar of boiled eggs on the counter, like hard-boiled eggs, and you could just help yourself to an egg. Who the fuck's want a hard-boiled egg? But little quaint things like that you don't really see in a lot of places. But the pub does hold a lot of magical things, and I think a lot of youngsters are missing out with all their healthy attitudes.
I remember the student union on School Hill when I can't remember what it had been before, one of the bars, but they turned it into Seasons, which was kind of a cafe, but they still had like draft tenants.
That was on the top floor, wasn't it?
No, it was on the ground floor as you came in. It was like as you came in.
Oh, yeah.
So it was sort of like they were going for a sort of cafe kind of vibe, but you could still get a pint of tenants, and you could still play a puggy with a £200 jackpot. because it was a club. So because it was only clubs that were allowed to have fruit machines with such high jackpots back then. I think a pub, the highest jackpot you could get was like £10 or £15 back in those days, the mid-90s. But if you went to a club, you had £200 jackpots.
Okay.
I never won.
Must have been, maybe private clubs as well, because I know my golf club had two £200 jackpot.
Yeah, that's what
clubbies.
I mean, private clubs, not like nightclubs and stuff. Yeah, private clubs.
Yeah.
And of course, the Union was a private club because you had to have a student card to get in unless somebody signed you in.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. Yeah, so, be no more. It's going to be turned into a tea room, and maybe it'll do the same as you mentioned. You know, they might just have one sort of tenant's draft there just in case of emergency, in case someone's gasping for a pint and doesn't want a cup of Earl Grey.
Yeah. Coffee Earl Grey or a fucking wheatgrass bloody smoothie or something disgusting like that. I mean, that's all part of the kind of, well, maybe it's not anymore. I'm sitting here saying, well, that's all part of the student experience. But I've not been a student for fucking like 25 years. But it certainly was. It used to be, you know, it was like sort of freshers week and getting your book with all your little offers that were on, you know what I mean?
That was it though. Yeah. Going out, getting battered on your first night, missing your lecture on the second day, waking up in a halls of residence when you don't even go to halls of residence, and a strange room, and having nightly romances with people that you'll probably never speak to for the next 4 years because you're embarrassed about that first night. Fond memories. Yeah. Take me back.
Yeah. Remembering how to put a condom on from being shown how to do it with a banana when you're at school. Have you brought protection? I have brought protection, but before we start, have you got any bananas? I just need to try something. Bear with me.
Oh no, it's not a Chiquita. Anyway. Okay. Is there anything else that you've seen this week, Greg, that you'd like to talk about?
That's all the news fit for the podcast this week that I could find.
Wonderful. Okay, well, before we go on to our first spooky subject on the Culture Swally Spooktacular, I promise I'll stop calling it that. Then, before we go into that, let's have a little word from our sponsors.
I'm Dawn. And I'm Cole. And Scottish Murders is a true crime podcast dedicated to people from or living in Scotland.
Just like anywhere else in the world, these murders can be truly horrific and shocking, and we want to shine more light upon them.
Join us every 2 weeks on Scottish Murders, where we'll bring you cases both solved and unsolved, giving you an insight into the other side of bonnie Scotland.
Find us wherever you stream your podcasts, as well as on social media.
Join us there. Bye!
All right, so it was your choice this week, Nikki. So why don't you introduce what we're reviewing?
Thank you very much, Greg. Yes, well, I wanted to look at something a little bit different this week for our Swally Spooktacular to kick off our Halloween this year. So I decided to go with something that aired on BBC One, and it's called Govan Ghost Story. So this aired on the 7th of March 1989 at 9:30 p.m. on BBC One across the whole of the UK, and it was written by Bryan Elsley, directed by David Hayman, and starring Tom Watson. Govan Ghost Story tells the tale of Jock, an out-of-work ex-shipbuilder who discovers that old memories are awakened in a terrifying and dangerous way when Jock encounters a strange little girl in the high-rise block of flats that he lives in Govan. Who is she and what does she want? So, Greg, had you seen Govan Ghost Story before? And do you have any memories of it?
I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
I feel like I definitely heard about it. Or maybe I'd seen it when I've been doing research for other episodes of the Swally. Because obviously Bryan Elsley is a writer of The Young Person's Guide to Becoming a Rock Star, among other things. Yeah. The Crow Road as well.
And he did Complicity, film version as well.
That's right. So maybe I've seen it there because when you told us on the last episode that we're going to be reviewing that this week, like the name definitely rang a bell. I had never seen it before, and I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah. When as it started off, I was a bit fucking hell. It's got a touch of the kind of Peter McDougall's about it, but I struggle to believe in ghosts, but I do like a good sort of proper ghost story, sort of kind of Woman in Black type ghost story, you know. Yeah, I really liked it.
And I think I'm the same. I'd never seen it, and it kept cropping up whenever I was looking at things. And you know, similarly, even if looking at David Hayman, I would see that he directed this, and it kept cropping up. And I did bookmark it a few months ago, thinking I'm going to save that for Halloween. And I hadn't watched it up until I did mean to test it in case if it was a load of shite, but I thought I'll just leave it. Let's watch it for the Swally. I really enjoyed it as well. And same as you, I'm kind of watching it thinking, okay, how's this going to be? But it's really good. I mean, it's only an hour long, so you're not wasting much time. It's quite funny in a few points as well. There are a few laugh out loud moments, and I wouldn't go so far as to say I didn't find it scary, because of course I was watching it on a laptop in the middle of the afternoon. But maybe if I was watching it on my TV with the lights out at night, then maybe a couple of little jump scares might have come out of me.
I can tell you that if I had watched this at the time that it came out, at the age that I was, I'd have had fucking nightmares.
Yeah, I agree with you at that. I think if I'd watched this in 1989 as like 8 years old, then yes, it would have probably scared me if I'd watched it like 9:30 at night and then like, okay, off to bed. Fuck that. But I agree, it does. There's something special about this, because it does take all the kind of tropes that we have spoken about in terms of like banging doors and haunted dolls and spooky singing, but it puts it all in a fucking Govan tenement rather than like a stately home you would see, and it just, something about it just makes it so quirky, and it works. And it just feels like familiar in a way. Something, it must be about like the tenement setting, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about those tenements was that, you know, like I remember like having relatives in Glasgow that lived in some of them around sort of Springburn and places like that, and the kind of communal areas were always pretty grim. You know what I mean? Like you see if you watch Still Game, and you see the floor that Jack and Victor and Isa live on, looks fine, and probably they are now. You know, I imagine there's not a great deal of them left because a lot of them have been knocked down. But I imagine people it's probably more of a community that sort of take care of the communal areas and stuff. But I remember some of them being fucking absolutely horrible. When I was a kid, you know, you would get in a lift and it would stink of piss and bloody be all graffitied and things, and it would make a real racket going up the floors. So you would never know if it was going to make it to the floor that you were trying to get to. So they do sort of lend themselves quite well to a sort of spooky kind of tale. But the thing is, like, they're not even that old, those tenements. You know, like I imagine that one that this is filmed in, I'd be surprised. So, like, I mean, it was probably filmed in 1988, came out 1989. Maybe it's probably like only 25 or 30 years old, that tenement. And I mean, it looks fucking ancient. You know?
Yeah, it looks grim.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, And as you say about the kind of communal areas, that, as you say, the kind of reference recently is exactly that, it's Still Game. And I'm sure there's episodes they go to another floor and it's like, you know, bike parts lying around and stuff. And
Manky Frankie.
You know, it just depends on the neighbour that you've got. It could be a complete arsehole. So it's quite a simple story, really, as well. It's not an hour long. It's about Jock, who is an out-of-work shipbuilder, signs on the dole. He's obviously living alone. His wife's long dead. He's got one daughter, Brenda, who's slightly estranged from, but she does kind of come and visit occasionally, but I think a bit less. They've got a bit of a strained relationship.
Indeed.
And Jock's just kind of filling his days. He goes to the pub, he's writing his book about the shipbuilding, and then just all of a sudden he starts seeing this little girl appearing in the hall. Now, my question would be, why now? He's been living in that, I think, does he say he's moved in like 3 years ago?
Yeah, when he's trying to talk to the old lady that lives across from him, he says that he's been there like 3 years, I think.
So why now? Why is this girl coming to him now after 3 years? Because this happened long ago. Well, spoiler alert, everyone, go and watch Govan Ghost Story. But it turns out that this little girl had died in the apartment. Her father was abusive and then threw her over the balcony and then took a header himself, as it turns out. So obviously that's long ago, before Jock moved in, but why now? Why is she just appearing to him now?
Well, I mean, I took it as being like, you know, his guilt about, so like this, his backstory is he, as you mentioned already, he's been a shipwright on the Clyde. He's sort of, a lot of his memories are around the 1971 work-in that happened on the Clyde in Glasgow. Jimmy Reid, sort of famous union leader, he made that famous speech that there'd be no hooliganism, there'd be no bevying, they'd have a work-in instead of striking. they were going to come into work even though they weren't getting paid and all that sort of stuff. And, his quite a left-wing guy, like his soon-to-be son-in-law calls him comrade at one point, to sort of he's having a go at him. And we also find out that his wife died when his daughter Brenda was quite young, and she sort of became she sort of kept house for them both when she was a little girl. So it seems, we find out that Brenda, she comes to see him to tell him that she's getting married, and it seems to sort of cause him to think back to how he treated Brenda, but he's so sort of proud that he can't sort of see the kind of error of these ways and how he didn't do right by her when she was a little girl, how he didn't look after her properly. He was so concerned with the working and the union, and I sort of took that as being that's what he sort of failed his own daughter as she was growing up, and this little ghost girl kind of gives him a second chance to save her, So in saving her, although she's obviously, as you mentioned, she's long dead, he sort of comes to the realization that he needs to stop being such a cunt to his daughter. Perhaps simplifying.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but you're completely right. I think that is it. I mean, you can kind of tell that Jock is not a bad guy as such, but he's haunted by his past in a way. He's obviously the act of his past, the death of his wife, the tattered relationship with his daughter, being unemployed. He kind of can't really do anything right. As we see at the start, he sleeps in and kind of misses the dole office, so can't cash his check. His mates take pity on him and say, come on, I'll buy you a half. And they're asking, "It's what you up to?" He tells them he's writing a book, and they take the piss out of him.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck's going to read that, So he can't really catch a break. It's just kind of shattering all of his aspirations. He's, the one thing he's thinking, I'll write a book. And the first people he tells, just take the piss out of him. And I guess that is it. He's looking for something, and he does become kind of all consumed by this little girl that he sees in his apartment. And having those flashbacks to Brenda when she was a little kid, you can see that he feels guilty about it.
Yeah.
And she's all kind of smiley, but as the flashbacks become more frequent, you see that he could have been a slightly better father to her. And even then, when she comes around as an adult and kind of says that she doesn't come round that often now, why would you?
Yeah.
Really? If you're just getting that, kind of depressing.
Yeah, she's quite a kind of virtuous character because, like to your point, when you see, I think the first flashback you see is of them when she is a little girl, is him coming out of the yard, her running up to him, he scoops her up in his arms and sits her up on his shoulder and everything. And then as the flashbacks go on, there's a scene where he comes in, he's hammered drunk and he falls on the floor under the dinner table. There's another scene where he throws a glass or a mug or something at the wall to make her go away and things. And she's had this very difficult childhood. She's lost her mother when she was it's never really said exactly how young she was, but she obviously was young because in the flashbacks she's young. She's lost her mother. She's had a father who's been quite neglectful, and yet she still wants him to give her away at our upcoming wedding. She still wants to have a relationship, and he can't quite get out of his own way. You kind of feel that he wants that as well. I mean, he's kept her dolly, although, I mean, of all the things he could have kept, I wouldn't be keeping I fucking hate dolls, honestly. I'd have flung it out the window as well. But he's kept her doll that I assume it was hers from when she was a little girl. He's got his picture of his late wife and stuff, and you kind of feel that he wants that as well. There's that scene where he goes round to their house in the Merchant City to have dinner. He kind of turns up unannounced. I mean, I mean, those the people that they have round for dinner. Just if somebody said, go and write a sketch with some 1980s stereotypical yuppies in it, they would write exactly what they would come up, those two characters. But he's sort of making an effort. But then the whole story, the whole thing about her, they start asking about, when she was a little girl, and the guy's kind of doing down Govan. It's a bit rough now. But I mean, he was fucking miles off there when he said that Govan was coming up and it would be the place to be. I'm not quite sure that ever came to fruition over the years. But he's really trying, but he just can't get out of his own way because he's so proud. He's sort of staunch unionist. Obviously, it'd be difficult for anybody to raise a child on their own, but especially a guy in those days. you know?
Yeah.
And a guy, a sort of working class guy. But yeah, she's, you know, she kind of gives him chance after chance. You know?
No, yeah, you're right. As you say, that opens the first time we see her. She's come round to announce that she's getting married and asks if he will give her away. And of course, you can tell it's a big thing when she says it's a church. And he's obviously a staunch Protestant, I presume. And, you know, I'm not going to church. Well, of course, we'll see him in the pub.
Yeah.
There's a rousing rendition of Billy Boys going on in the background, so we kind of know where he stands there. The next time we see her is at the graveyard. He goes to visit his wife's grave, and he obviously did love that. He is unemployed, but he picks up a bunch of flowers from someone else's grave, takes a couple out, and then goes and lays them on his wife's grave. Lovely first words to his wife as well. Brenda's getting married. The guy's a wanker.
Brenda's getting married. Guy's a wanker. Oh, West End and wine bars.
But that wonderfully sums up what he thinks of Brenda's potential as Willie, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And it turns out Brenda's been there listed to all of this, but she doesn't come down until Jock's gone.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, this is going to put extra pressure on them. But you're right, the next time we really see her is when he goes round. Is that, or do they come round to the flat again?
I think she comes round on her own once after that and has another try.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then he goes round, because he feels guilty, I think,
Yeah. So just to go back a moment or two, you mentioned that first scene when they're in the pub. So there's a line that somebody says there that it kind of evoked a few memories for me, but they mention that they're off to see Rangers, and it's a team. It's a team full of Englishmen, which is right, because, you know, famously English teams were banned from Europe because of it was a high shoal disaster. So a lot of English players came to Scotland, and a lot of them ended up at Rangers, and I think to a slightly lesser extent Celtic. But Aberdeen's European Cup winners, like the team, were there any English players on that team?
I don't think there was, actually.
I don't think there was either.
No.
And I think that was before High Show. I think High Show was 1984. I probably should have looked at the list before making my point.
No, it was a full Scottish 11 on the Aberdeen team and bench as well.
Yeah.
And in fact, Real Madrid, there was only 2 players in the whole of both teams that weren't from their respective country, if that makes sense. The whole Aberdeen team were Scottish, the whole Real Madrid team were Spanish, apart from 1 Dutchman and 1 German.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
But yeah, of course, the English teams, being banned, so there was an influx. And I did think that was quite funny, because of course it was Souness's Rangers, and that was around the time he was signing like Chris Woods and
Terry Butcher,
Mark Haitley, Terry Butcher, Trevor Stevens, and Gary Stevens.
Chris. You said Chris Woods. Yeah, he was goalkeeper for Rangers, wasn't he? Yeah. And the English number 2 or number 3 keeper after Peter Shilton.
Yeah, been Shilton at the time. So there was quite an influx at the time.
Yeah,
which obviously didn't go down well with some of the locals.
No, but then one of them does concede. Well, at least they're winning a few games. I was thinking, well, pretty sure Rangers were, you know, the old Rangers were a reasonably consistent team for years and years before as soon as started signing hundreds of English guys. Anyway, I thought I see, because that scene was quite early on, I thought, is it going to be a bit football-y, this? But they just, you know, I don't think they could have called it a Govan Ghost Story without a nod towards Ibrox somewhere. You know? Yeah,
I think there has to be. I mean, but that's the thing. It's called Govan Ghost Story. You don't really see a huge amount of Govan in it as such. No. You see a little bit, but not a huge amount.
You see some of the bits by the river, like the old shipyards. There's a good the scene when Willie takes Jock in the car. Is go buy him a drink, but they end up parking next to the river. And Willie's I think it's a Ford Orion. Remember the Ford Orion? It was sort of like it was kind of like an escort, but they were kind of one up from the escort. They park on the other side of the river from where the Glasgow Garden Festival was being set up, and they talk about the roller coaster, the Coca-Cola roller coasters that would become. I quite like that, because I remember although Glasgow was undergoing quite a wave of gentrification at the time, there were still some fucking really rough parts of Glasgow, and there still are, but like any other city, you know what I mean? You know, there were some fucking dog rough parts of Glasgow even back then, and in that little stretch down by the river there, just on the edge of Govan was, you can tell, you can see from the sort of footage when they're panning around the car and stuff. It's fucking rough as fuck.
How interesting that this 1989, this is set and filmed, I'll just say, presume it was 1988.
Yep.
And then 1 year later, we have Series 1 of Rabsy Nesbitt, which has the Glasgow European City of Culture episode, which shows how far in a year Glasgow had kind of progressed.
Well,
or
maybe
just the bits that tourists would see.
Yeah, how far the city centre had progressed, perhaps. I mean, I think because Glasgow, we spoke about it, didn't we, in that episode, but Glasgow was awarded the European City of Culture in 1990. I mean, I think the Garden Festival was 1988, because I remember going when I was... Was it? Yeah, it was 1988. I can remember going, and so that shot. I mean, it's hard to tell because I was watching it on my laptop as well, so I couldn't see a great amount of detail. But they do reference it. I think when they're back at or even in the car, Willie says, it's going to bring a lot of money and investment to the city. It's going to bring a lot of jobs to the city and things like that. And it was a big deal. The Garden Festival. It's a really big deal. I remember it quite well. I think I've still got my tickets for the Coca-Cola roller coaster in my loft and my house in Glasgow and steps. My little memory box.
Oh, very nice. How lovely. So Jock, played by Tom Watson.
The Mint.
Puts in the Mint, yes, of course. I think I've found someone that possibly rivals Ken Stott for who has played the most police officers, because if you look at Tom Watson's IMDb, just about every second role is inspector or sergeant or detective in some various different shows. Yeah. It's almost a one-hander, this show. I mean, obviously there are scenes that he is with other people, but it's a lot of the time that he's just himself.
Yeah.
Or with a little girl. And he does deliver a great performance. You really do believe, the kind of journey he goes on. Specifically, some of the scenes where I think he's been through in the apartment. I keep calling it apartment. He's been in the flat next door. Yeah. And he's really spooked out when he's looking in the mirror. And he's seeing the reflection of the flat behind him all made up. And it's not. It's a shithole that's been abandoned for a couple of years. But he's seeing it as all nice and made up and all furnished. And when he goes back to his apartment and has a bath with fairy liquid and he's speaking to himself, trying to talk himself out of things, it's a great performance. And then he goes back in, tooled up with his chisel to fight off the ghosts. It's really good. And not even just that, they are great. But as you say, the scenes with Brenda, you really do believe some of the emotions. There's a wonderful shot in that dinner party scene we spoke about when he's with the yuppies and they're all talking, and all of a sudden, the way it's shot, it looks like they're all facing him and staring at him.
His point of view, isn't it?
And and to show, I guess, that he feels isolated and out of place, and that's when and then the next shot is showing them normally around the table, so it's just in his head, and that's when he kind of panics, makes his excuses, thanks them for the racist dinner, and then just leaves.
Thanks them for the racist dinner. Yeah.
Well, he says a word that we're not going to say, but he thanks them for their meal of Chinese origin.
Were you terribly young when your mother died, Brenda?
As she was. Too young to remember.
Oh, I can remember plenty. It's you who's forgotten it all.
Is that a fact? Well, I better go. Thanks for the chinky.
Sorry.
What I liked about his performance is there's kind of two things about it. One, he's, as was said about Jock already, he's a very staunch, sort of in some ways kind of atypical working class widow. Right, he's been widowed for years. It's clear that he's lived by himself for years, but he's worked in the shipyards, like a very kind of male sort of atmosphere. And it's like, well, how would somebody like that respond to the fact that maybe there's a ghost kicking about or like spooky, unusual happenings and things? And you kind of believe him. You sort of, because you might think that he would. That type of person would be instantly dismissive of it. Oh, it's fucking whatever. Just roll over and go to sleep. You know what I mean? When the door's banging or he hears like some kids singing outside his door and he'd be, shut the fuck up out there, you fucker, or something like that. Don't make me come out there. You sort of assume, but he's kind of believable in how at first he, like anybody would, he assumes it's something else, and then it becomes a bit more unusual, the sort of things that's happening. When he sees a little girl in that early scene when Brenda and Willie have let themselves into his flat, and he sees the little girl, and then he goes in, and he's like, "Oh, did you see that wee girl out there?" And we're like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, that's kind of weird," and then things become more and more unusual. The noises, the little girl singing, kids laughing, then he starts to hear the little girl crying. And, the kind of tone of how she's crying and the things she's saying suggests that somebody's like beating her up. He's like, you mentioned it before, the first thing he does is grab a chisel and charge next door. And you're like, well, I can kind of believe that, I'll just grab something just in case, I know it might be a ghost or whatever, but you never know. I might have to kind of plunge it, Yeah, he's really good, Tom Watson. And the other part of his performance that I liked was, it would have been, I think they sort of resist this urge to completely reform him by the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he does have that scene with Brenda at the graveside at the end, and he's a bit more sort of outgoing, if you like, but he's not entirely unguarded. He's still who he is, rather than have him sort of emotional sort of reconciliation at the graveside with his daughter. "Oh, I'm so sorry for everything that I've done all these years."
No.
Never apologizes to her for any of it. You know what I mean? But he still conveys to us, the viewer, that he is genuinely remorseful. And you sort of get the feeling that she knows him well enough to know at the graveside at the end that my dad's is changing here.
Yeah, there's definitely, it kind of doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
As you say, it's not like he's turned up in a Hawaiian shirt or something and
Celtic top
says that they, with a Celtic top, and saying that we need to talk about our feelings and stuff. And, I think it's enough that there's kind of an unspoken gesture of something's changing and we're going to work through things. And it's interesting what you said about his performance and the way they develop. And it's really subtly and cleverly done, as you say. It's not like when he first sees the girl, he's like, "Oh, it's a ghost." But I laughed. I'd written down in my notes, like, "Oh, Jock sees a girl and drops his messages," which is such a Scottish thing to say. He drops his messages. But as things progress, and when he's down in the pub, he's trying to speak to his neighbour and asking if someone's moved in, and he can tell something's wrong, that the way the neighbour's reacting. Mm-hmm. And then when he eventually finds out that he thinks it's a ghost, and he's trying to get to her, and then he asks his mates down the employment office, "Do you believe in ghosts?"
Yeah.
And his friend's like, "No, he's a fucking stupid." So he's doubting himself.
But he also says
it's not
that he doesn't believe in ghosts. When he says no, he goes, "Yeah, I don't believe in ghosts either." And
it's not until kind of the off-the-cuff kind of conversation again down at the employment exchange when it's like, "Oh, are you living in that building?" "Oh, aye, that guy took threw his girl over the balcony and then took a dive and headed off himself."
Yeah.
That he's suddenly like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And rushes back and then manages to speak to his neighbour.
McCallum Court, is it no, Joe?
Aye.
How long have you been in there?
A couple of years.
You wouldn't be there when that heat case put his lash out the window?
What?
Aye. What was your name again, Alec? It was in the paper.
Doherty, was it? Doherty.
A wee lassie been kicking this shit out. Oh, a real bamper. The way I heard it, she was better after it.
My God.
That wouldn't happen in the old days. You start a third world war in the high flats, nobody would notice.
It is quite subtly done, and I thought very well in terms of I'm not comparing this to like a Hollywood film, in terms of glitz and glamour. I mean, this is grimy and dirty, but it's very subtle the way that it's done and it's revealed, and dare I say, makes it a little bit more believable.
Yeah.
That you could actually believe this is happening and this is the occurrence of things. Okay, when he gets the lift down to the basement, and mind you, that's a dream though.
Yeah,
that he has that. It's because the neighbour says that the dad effectively, someone did confront him and he did them in the basement. Yeah. When it got to that, I thought, oh, okay, this is maybe taking a little bit of almost like a Doctor Who kind of turn. But then it turns out he was dreaming about it, which makes it a little bit more palatable.
Yeah, and he's, his interpretation of the abusive father is himself, because that's who he sees.
Which I think is
clever.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautifully done, I thought. That made a lot of, and that's maybe actually the realization that Jock has. And effectively the ghost and seeing him is him battling his inner demons.
Yeah.
And that's the first step of conquering it, because he's realizing that the demon is himself. And then by saving the girl in effectively the next scene, that's him conquering his demons. Wow, that's quite deep. I never actually thought about that.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to think about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way it is, really. Yeah, that's quite heavy. I think I need a moment.
I think, this was made as part of the Play on One series, and something that the BBC, well, not just the BBC, but ITV used to do as well over the years, have these great sort of anthology TV series. Now, ITV had Tales of the Unexpected, the old Roald Dahl, and they were all anthology series, little one-off weird tales. And BBC, we've done a few of the Plays for Today, Down Among the Big Boys and Just a Boys Game and Just on a Saturday and things. And they don't always land well. You know what I mean? But
you're referring to the nuclear family there.
But the fact that TV was sort of brave enough then to just sort of take a punt. We've got this young Scottish writer. I mean, Bryan Elsley he was in his mid-20s when he wrote this, and there's at the beginning of the show, it shows how important they considered the writer to be. There's a little kind of headshot of Bryan there at the beginning, his signature, and then the credits roll at the beginning of the episode. And I sort of commercial TV now on, I don't mean streaming, but the commercial channels in the UK, it's series and reality shows and quiz shows and things, and they don't do anything like that anymore. Weird,
The only thing they have like this nowadays is, well, the two things that they have, I would say, like this nowadays is Inside Number 9, which again, it's the same writers.
Yeah, and the same cast and all that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not giving, well, it's different cast. It's the two main, but they have guest actors on every
that's
week.
What I mean, yeah.
And a completely new story. And I guess to a certain extent, Black Mirror.
Yeah, Black Mirror's a great example. Yeah.
Probably the closest, because it's written by Charlie Brooker, but it's a completely different cast every episode, and every episode's about something completely different. That's all we really have.
But Black Mirror kind of makes my point for me, because it started off on Channel 4, and now it's on Netflix. Yeah. So all the new Black Mirror stuff's on Netflix. So, Channel 4, either they were massively outbid by Netflix, or they were happy just to sort of let it go,
I think it was a bit of the latter, to be honest. Yeah. I think I remember reading Charlie saying something like, look, we've had an offer from Netflix, and Channel 4 saying, yeah, probably just take it then.
Yeah.
I seem to remember it was something along those lines, which a bit stupid, Channel 4. Yeah. But yeah, that's probably what I have. And I'm the same as you. I loved Tales from the Unexpected. Yeah, still sometimes watch old episodes on YouTube. I've got a chance. And I think there's a lot of these Plays on One and Plays for Today that were set in Scotland. There's quite a few I've clicked on looking at Wikipedia, and it's a Scottish actor or set in Scotland. And a lot of them are really difficult to find, though.
Yeah.
There's quite a few I've searched for on YouTube, because where else, I wish they would put them on iPlayer or something, but iPlayer just doesn't seem to be big enough to handle all of the content and output. But it would be great to see. Some of them sound really interesting, and they might be shite once you've watched them, but I'd like to be given the opportunity or be able to watch them.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's possible, some of the ones that we've done, they're very of their time, as well written and acted and entertaining as they've been, they're still very of their time. Just Another Saturday, the one about the Orange Band in Glasgow and stuff like that, and Just a Boys Game, probably the two that are, they could only really have come out then. I don't think anybody would say, oh, we know what we should do. We should write a play about two guys going out in a lash on a Friday in Greenock in 1978. You know what I mean? It's just but these sort of short, hour-long, real character studies, which is what they are. I mean, even this, although it's set against the backdrop of a sort of supernatural story, it's still a real character study of Jock. All the stuff about his time in the shipyards and the Jimmy Reed stuff, his relationship with his daughter and everything else. It's But that isn't at the expense of a couple of kind of spooky, unsettling moments,
No, this is, as you say, this is about a man who's been completely fucking broken. He's lost his wife. He's struggled for years, probably. His job is the only thing he's had keeping him going to try and raise his daughter. His daughter's left the nest. She's marrying another man. He's unemployed.
A peanut salesman, as they call him.
As he says. Yeah, peanut salesman. He's been unemployed for 5 years, 4 months and 23 days, as he reminds us.
Yeah.
He's got fuck all going for him. He's broken, and it's about his kind of redemption and rebuilding himself. And as you say, it's so good the way they do it at the end, that it's not just, oh, everything's great and everything's rosy. There's no birds flying around his head as he goes to the graveyard and daisies coming up. It's, it's still fucking grim. Life's still shit. He's still out of work.
Yep.
But you know what? He's going to try and rebuild the relationship with his daughter. Things aren't as bad. And now he speaks to his neighbour. He can go down for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows? They're both similar age. Maybe little elderly romance. No, I think she's a bit older than him, I think. Yeah. I would have thought. So yeah, it's as you say, it's a very good character study, but with a bit of a ghost story around it. But it's really good. I really thoroughly enjoyed this.
I liked it. I just wish that the resolution on YouTube had been a bit better, because it was a bit grainy, because, I guess because it's an old TV tape and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it should be grateful that we were able to see it, but
exactly.
Unfortunately, another thing that we've done recently, soundtrack by the Blue Nile.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know if I was in love with the soundtrack, to be honest. It was quite. I mean, it's very much of its time,
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. I guess that's like a lot of the Blue Nile. You can kind of take or leave sometimes.
Yeah.
So you might be. Well, you are definitely better placed to know this than I would. But of course, these flats, apparently the flat was a real flat. It was Iona Court, which was in the flats located on Broomloan Road and Kintra Street. I don't know if that rings any bells to you. Rumour has it that those flats were actually haunted.
Oh, really?
Now, that could just be kids saying that, because there was, the kids used to date each other because it was the rumour that those flats were actually haunted, and one of the sort of buildings was there. And on the corner of Kintra and Woodville Street, there was a street light. And the way the street light shone, apparently it cast a shadow of a man being hanged on gallows.
Right.
And that was why the kids used to be scared not to go there. That's just what I read online, though, anyway, so I don't know if it's true. Could just be half-arsed internet research.
Well, let me ask you a question, right? I'm going to give you the names of a few famous ghosts, and I want you to tell me if you think that Govan Ghost Story would have been better or worse had they been in it. Okay? You ready?
Okay, right.
All right, first one, Timothy Claypole of Rent-A-Ghost. Better or worse? Better or worse?
I'm going to say better. It'd be more. I'd like to see Jock's reaction to Timothy Claypole come leaping through the close.
He might have preferred Nadia Popov instead, because he's a bit of a communist.
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay. Next one, Sam Wheat, Patrick Swayze.
Sam Wheat. Oh, for Patrick Swayze. I'm envisaging a scene now of Jock on a potter's wheel making Brenda a dish that she can cook her Chinese meals out of.
Patrick Swayze giving her a
Swayze
cuddle.
just there, Unchained Melody playing. Oh, well, actually, no, Billy Boys would be playing. As
the sash
Jock pumping his foot to the potter's wheel. Anything, Swayze makes anything better, but no, I don't think this would have worked quite as well. He might have copped off with the neighbour, Mrs. Duncan, was it?
Yeah.
So no, okay. I wouldn't say that Sam would have made this better.
Okay, we've only got a couple more.
Okay.
Dr. Eleanor Twitty.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Oh, you'll kick yourself.
Eleanor Twitty.
It's the librarian of Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Would she have made it better?
Scarier, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
She would have been
definitely.
quieter, for sure.
That's true. She would have been better because she might have been able to give Jock some tips for writing his book.
Yeah, that's good.
So yes, I'm going to say yes.
Okay, right. Last one. Elliot Hopper, played by Bill Cosby on Ghost Dad.
No comment. 89. he would have, I mean, at least we know he wouldn't have thrown the kid over the balcony. He'd have just drugged her with some milk. It wasn't kids, though, with Cosby, was it? It was fully grown women.
Yeah,
Cosby wasn't a pedo.
No.
He was just a rapist.
Yeah.
So genuine question, were there any black people in Govan at that time?
Probably not. But
so
ironically,
he would have stuck out.
Ironically, although there might not have been any black people living in Govan at the time that this was made, which is remember at the same time as Ghost Dad came out, Ian Bannon is in Ghost Dad, famous Scottish actor Ian Bannon.
I can't remember what we covered that Ian Bannon was in, but when I did look at his IMDb, I did burst out laughing when I saw that he was in Ghost Dad. I remember. Because Ghost Dad was always an old friend of mine in Dubai. We used to always have a joke about Ghost Dad. I don't know. It was like whenever we said about, oh, do you want to go and see this film? Our answer was always Ghost Dad. Like it just became this joke. This was before all of the Cosby allegations, I should say. So no, I do not think Cosby would make this better. So basically, what we've landed on is Timothy Claypole would make this better.
Yeah, although I do like that little scene that you described of Patrick Swayze giving Jock a cuddle as he as he's writing his book with the sash playing in the background.
I think it could work. Yeah, they both have to be topless, obviously.
Well, goes without saying. Yeah.
Maybe Jock in his vest because he's in advancing years, so it might be a bit drafty in that tenement. Mm-hmm. Just need to watch Swayze around the windows because we know what happens there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The one thing I would think about, though, that crossed my mind is towards the end that Jock finds out about the dad that had thrown, I can't even remember her name now. Was it Jessie or...
I can't remember. I remember the dad's name was Docherty.
Jeannie Docherty. He'd thrown her over the balcony and then... Of course, and of course, foreshadowing that we kind of find that out earlier when Matt Costello is fixing his car and the doll comes flying down. It's like Matt Costello just gets fucking everywhere, doesn't he?
He does.
And the thing is, though, it's not obvious. He looks different in a lot of things that we've covered him in.
Yeah.
But his voice is so distinctive.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's pretty thin in this. It's a bit heavier in the later stuff that he turns up in, but he's pretty skinny.
Now, however, Jock has only moved into that building 3 years ago, as we've established. However, he's obviously lived in Govan all his life because Brenda's left and has said she doesn't want to go back to Govan. So obviously they lived there. I know he didn't live in that building, but he lived in the area. Surely the scandal of a father throwing his young daughter over the balcony to her death and then taking a head himself would be pretty big news in the area. Jock surely would have heard about this.
Yeah, there was a bit where they sort of try and speak to that. They say something about sort of people keeping themselves to themselves back then or whatever. But to your point, that's still, I mean, that's national news. You know what I mean? It's not even like it would just be like in whatever the local kind of Govan newspaper is. You know what I mean? That is national news.
I can understand because, you're right. The neighbour does say like people kept themselves to themselves. The theory there is that obviously all of the neighbours knew what was happening. Yeah. They knew he was abusing her, but nobody did anything because it was none of their business. Yeah. Now, regardless of that, father and daughter falling off the balcony, dying, that's round that neighbourhood like wildfire. Maybe not about the abuse claims, but you would know that, some people might thought it was just a tragic accident. They were playing on the balcony and fell. Yeah. Everyone in Govan knows about that within 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, to your point, sort of like, well, it might, it's an accident, but everybody that lives locally knows what really happened because they know that, like it was no secret that he was mistreating this wee girl and banging her about and stuff like that. Yeah. So I just find it a little bit difficult that Jock had no idea about any of this. Yeah, I get, I know. I mean, I try to think, if you worked in the shipyards, you probably lived in places like Govan for sure, Partick, sort of trades thinking area, stuff like that. It's the law of averages would dictate that he probably would have heard about it. That was it. That was my only kind of nitpick. Yeah. As I say, other than that, I I genuinely thoroughly enjoyed Govan Ghost Story. I'll make sure I put a link to the YouTube in the description of this pod, so if you want to watch it, anyone, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, we probably should have said about an hour ago, if you're intending on watching it, stop listening to the podcast and then come back and listen after you've watched it and see if you agree with our comments and opinions on it.
If you are a listener of the podcast, though, you would know it's on YouTube, because at the end of the last episode, I did say it's available on YouTube.
That's true. I did say that.
We'll put out, I tell you what, we could save ourselves. We'll put out a post the week before this episode airs. Yeah. And you can say, and we'll put a link to it as well in the description, so people can watch it ahead as homework if they wish to.
And
yes, Greg,
get in touch with us and let us know what you felt about Govan Ghost Story. If you think it would have been better if one of the Rent-A-Ghosts was in it, then drop us an email and let us know. Okay, so let's put Govan Ghost Story through our Swally Awards. Bit of a change of pace this week, because there's a few of our awards that are a bit redundant. Sort of BBC One, 9:30 in a school night. So the first one is our Bobby the Bartender's award for the best pub. I'm going to go first here and say that there's only really one pub, and I wouldn't really fancy going there. I'm honest.
No, I agree with you. It's a bit, I mean, it's a Govan, kind of workers. I was kind of thinking maybe, and then they start singing Billy Boys, and I'm like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing is, I mean, the sort of the kind of impression we're given of Govan is that there's a lot of people there, a bit like Jock, who lost their jobs when the shipyards closed down and are unemployed. Yet the pub's hoaching. That's what all I'm saying.
But they've just got their
the brew money.
gyro.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
So it's the first place to go is the pub.
The Hugh McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity, not really any. No nudity in there.
If only Claypole or Swayze had been in it, then we might have seen some nudity.
We would have, for sure. Especially if Claypole was in there. Fucking hell. The James Cosmo Award for being everything Scottish. We just mentioned him. It's got Matt Costello, right?
Tom Watson has been in a lot.
That's true,
and a lot of things over the years, but the fact that I've just mentioned that Matt Costello pops up in just absolutely everything, and it's usually just like a one line. He's there, and it's just it's just he's everywhere. I don't know why he's not higher up in the Swally.
I don't know. I mean,
I have to go back and double check. I've counted right.
I'm still coming to terms with him turning up in Wonder Woman 84. That I saw 2 years ago.
Fuck it. Let's give it to Matt Costello. Why not?
The Jake McQuillan, your Tease Out Award. So I gave this to Jock punching the ghost dad.
That's exactly what I gave it to. I'd actually written Docherty throwing his daughter over the balcony, and then I thought, I can't do that. No. That's a bit much. So yeah, I did go for Jock punching ghost dad, Bill Cosby.
If you told me that Ghost Dad would have come up in this episode of the Culture Swally on the last episode, I wouldn't have believed you. Okay, the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous swearing. Not really any gratuitous swearing. I think that there is an F-bomb dropped at one point, isn't there?
There is, yeah. We build ships in this river, no fucking roller coasters.
What the hell would you call that?
It's a roller coaster.
A roller coaster.
For kids? Not necessarily.
What? Looking forward to it, are we?
Things are different now. It's bringing work back again, money into this city. We'll all benefit.
Oh, aye, Maggie. We all get tired hanging about the shopping centre to keep warm. We can all pile down here with our brew money and get a ride in it. What an amenity.
You're living in the past.
I have to. We build ships in this river. No fucking roller coasters.
That's it. Before that, I had, Brenda's getting married, the guy's a wanker. Which I think might be the best, because it's just unexpected. It comes out of nowhere.
Yes. Okay, so I'm interested. I'm really interested in hearing what your nomination is for this next one. So the archetypal Scottish moment. Scottish? Scottish moment.
Scotch. I thought about this a lot. Genuinely, I went with the whole shipyard closing, unemployment issue, just kind of depressing term, because we've covered a few things in the Swally that kind of come. You're laughing. You've got someone belter for this.
I don't.
That whole kind of, Thatcher, unemployment, things are tough. That just seems to me to be a bit of a archetypal Scottish thing for this time. It's either that or Billy Boys in the pub. What have you gone for?
I've put the rejection of gentrification. It seems like quite a Scottish thing.
Oh, I see.
So I have.
You're right.
Yeah.
It does. Does seem to be, actually.
But I think, I've said that, but I'm thinking that it's more a kind of regional thing, because if you go to Dundee, I remember, being in Dundee in like the early 2000s and the city centre being quite grotty, and now it's quite, the sort of, it's pretty good, Dundee city centre to be. I know it's difficult for you to accept that being an Aberdeen fan, but it's.
Oh no! I think, as I think I've said before, even when I was younger, my mum, my sister, like a bank holiday, we would go to Dundee and they'd go shopping. I remember buying Be Here Now in Dundee. Came out the day or something, or was it the day or maybe the week after? But I remember buying that.
Right.
And buying the Verve Drugs Don't Work in Dundee. Yeah, single. Yeah, I used to quite like Dundee. It was all right. Dundee's great. I haven't been there for a while, but I've never had any. I mean, we joke that it's a hole. That was the kind of thing they would say, that the like Rubeslaw Quarry was the second biggest hole in Scotland behind Dundee. But we don't actually mean that. It's a nice city.
Banter.
Yeah, I agree, though. That could be the thing in terms of the not accepting change, as you say, it could be regional, but I don't know. But it's a decent enough shout. To be fair, there's not a lot else. The only other thing I was clinging on to was the Daily Record headline at the start.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of archetypal Scottish things, really.
Not really, no.
It's not like Jock had like a empty can next to his bed that he was pissing in or something.
Yeah, fucking tartan Tito in his cooker or something like that. Okay, I think it's sort of foregone conclusion, this last one, but the Sean Connery Award for who won the production.
You're not giving it to Bill Cosby, are you? It's Tom Watson, of course.
He's really good. Yeah, absolutely, fantastic. I liked him. I did like him in the early Taggarts. I did like the Biscuit as well when they brought him in. Later on, he was good, but Watson sort of, as the Mint was, you felt like he was closer to Taggart. You sort of felt like they might have been the same sort of position at some point in their careers, and they kind of come up together. Yeah. Whereas McVitie seemed a bit kind of sort of Edinburgh kind of university, a bit like I forgot the name of his pre-Jardine Peter.
Yeah,
Peter.
I know.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, can't remember his name right now, but yeah, Peter. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it does. You do get the impression that him and Taggart would have kind of, at least maybe might have been maybe a couple of years ahead of him in the academy or something, but they knew each other. They moved in the same circles. They'd probably served on the same team once or twice just before he got promoted. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Proper Polis. Okay.
Oh, well.
No, I enjoyed Govan Ghost Story. I was a bit apprehensive that you mentioned it last week, but I was really pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed it.
It's just 60 minutes. It's quick, and it's, you know what I mean? It's right up our street, I think. It's that kind of late 80s Glasgow, but it's not in your face, or, it's gritty, but it was really good. It's difficult to describe, but I really enjoyed it as well, I have to say.
It's a good old-fashioned sort of spooky story as well,
Yeah, it's not, there's no glitz and glamour. Although I did wonder, do you think that was the biggest special effect when Brenda's doll suddenly developed stigmata and just started bleeding out of its hand? That was a bit odd.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. Yeah.
Anyway.
I think if I'm honest, I think maybe the whole sort of climax on the balcony when Ghost Dad and Ghost Daughter sort of fade away and things. I did think of maybe just taking a couple of steps too far here, but I was okay. I was fine with it. I wasn't, it was still good. So.
Good. Okay. Well, Greg, that was my choice for the first Swally Spooktacular of the season. So it's your choice to close us off. So we've only got one more episode of me mentioning Swally Spooktacular this year. And I might ditch it altogether for the next episode. So what are we going to be talking about on the next episode of The Swally?
Well, I've rather than gone for a sort of supernatural, spooky kind of old-fashioned kind of ghost story, I've gone for a ball. Well, I've not seen it yet, but it certainly sounds like it's going to be a balls-out horror. So I've gone for 2014's White Settlers, directed by Simeon Halligan, written by Ian Frenton, and starring Pollyanna McIntosh and Lee Williams.
I have not seen this, but I have seen the kind of poster, and I remember thinking, oh, I need to pick that at some point because it looks quite good.
Yeah, well, I read the synopsis and I thought, oh, this could be good for a second Halloween episode.
And Pollyanna McIntosh is, I would like to say the campaign manager from Bob's Servant, but she's always going to be the size queen for us now, isn't she?
Yeah. Exactly. Is she not in The Walking Dead as well, Pollyanna McIntosh?
She is, yeah. She is. She certainly is. All right, great. Well, I look forward to watching that of the next episode. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I do thoroughly recommend you go and look at Govan Ghost Story. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Culture Swally Pod, or you can follow us on Twitter at Swally Pod, or if you've seen anything that you would like us to review or look at, or hey, if you just want to send us an email and say hello, please feel free to do so. You can get in touch with us on cultureswally@gmail.com. And of course, goes without saying, please give us a rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends about us wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help the podcast to grow. And Greg, we have a beautiful website that people can visit also, don't we?
We do. You can find us at cultureswally.com. There's links to all the episodes and articles on the Crankies, Scottish television, and you can also link directly to our social media accounts straight from the website too. So come and give us a visit over there.
I'm just checking if Ghost Dad streams anywhere, or do you think it's banned?
It might have been cancelled because of Cosby's shenanigans.
You know something? You can fucking rent it on Apple TV. In the United States, it's available on pretty much every streaming platform to rent. Netherlands, it's on Microsoft. I don't know. You could buy it for $14.99. Why would you pay $14.99 to fucking pay Ghost Dad?
So
I think I'm just going to visit Pirate Bay.
It's got to go towards Bill Cosby's legal fees. That's why it's
well,
so
I cannot condone paying for that. So
it's on Apple TV. It's £6 to buy and £3.50 to rent. Ghost Dad.
That's shocking. Ghost Dad. There you go. Is that the most times Ghost Dad's ever been mentioned in a podcast? Well, unless they're reviewing Ghost Dad. Right, wonderful. Well, I am not off to watch Ghost Dad, but I am off to go and find White Settlers and watch that. Fantastic. All right, well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Greg. Until next time.
Until next time.
He's got a family to raise.
Diane, don't make me walk through this door!
Do you know how weird that's going to make me look? Oh, there goes Diane, you know, Casper's daughter.
A romance to keep alive.
I can't.
Oh.
Oh, no, I don't mean that. Of course I wouldn't.
And a secret to keep.
I know that you're an alien. I want $50,000 or I go to the newspaper.
You don't try to threaten me!
Bill Cosby. As you've never seen him before. Invisible.
Daddy, can I take you to show and tell?
Goes to Dad.